Hello everyone, my name is Bob and I often review laptops. I have been sent machines for review and bought many more. Now, I am going to review the manufacturers that make our favorite machines. These are my thoughts through my eyes and ears. Today I talk about HP. I think their laptops are good for the year 2020, especially their Omen line, which has been what I have featured the most. Over the last 2 years, I've only covered a single Envy, one Pavilion, both of which were reviewed this year, and then a handful of Omens, as that is my favorite solution through them. And in the grand scheme of all of their product offerings, just please understand that my experience is only with those, but I'm going to offer some experiences that you may not have known that I had with this company, again, over the last 2 years. Now, my channel's been around since 2017, and I did not review anything from them till 2018. I typically have to buy most of my review units, review them, and then sell them, and they just didn't have anything too compelling for me to want to review out of my own pocket from 2017 until the middle of 2018 when we were starting to get that thin bezel laptop solution. And our local Micro Center had a thin bezel HP Omen 15 with a 1060, an 8750H, and a 60 Hz panel. I had to get my hands on it. So for $1,200, I bought it, brought it back home, spent a few weeks with it, and I reviewed it, did a teardown, and talked about replacing the panel in this particular laptop, as the thin bezel solutions had a different metal housing for the LCD screens, and you wanted to make sure that you ordered the right one, as well as a 30-pin versus a 40-pin connector. Anyway, so there were some details there that I wanted to cover, and I proceeded on doing so, sold the laptop, and moved on. Well, this laptop ran very, very hot. There was no fan control. The fans were very slow at ramping up. And the experience was a little unpleasant, but we addressed it by undervolting the CPU and the GPU. During the teardown, I talked about the thermal pads and how some of the backing on them seemed to still be in place, and it just didn't seem right. I didn't know if it was a quality control issue. I talked about that. And again, sold the machine and moved on. So about 2 days later, HP gets a hold of me in an email. And this was pretty cool because I only had like 8,000 subscribers at this time. And who would have thought that they would have even considered getting a hold of me, but they said they watched the videos and they appreciate the constructive criticism, and I think we're going to try, or they said that they think they're going to try to address the thermal performance by decreasing, the wattage of the CPU, making it all adjustable in the BIOS. So here's a BIOS. Bob, can you test this for us and let me know what you think? Wow, all right. Well, I kind of have to do this. I feel obligated to do so, right? I started this. I got to see it through. So back up to Micro Center I went, dropped another $1,200, installed the BIOS, all of my software suite, games, and the show must go on. So this BIOS offered 5-watt increments from 45 watts down to, I believe it was either 20 or 25 watts, and that helped improve thermal performance on the laptop to a degree. And because there was no fan control of the system, the fans would still sort of ramp up to temperatures, but it was still cooler, and it was even quieter than it was before. The change was subtle, but it was there. So I got back with them and I said, look, if you really want to do this right, we have to be able to max out the fans, whether that's in software or in your next revision. Can we get a dedicated hardware button on the keyboard deck, much like MSI does to their laptops? And they said, well, there's literally nothing we can do about this current system, even from a software standpoint. All right, well, this is beyond me, so I don't know how difficult that is or how possible it is. Fine, what about the next version? That one's pretty much already on its way, kind of set in stone, so to speak. I'm like, crap, well, what can you guys do? They said, the version after that, we'll take care of it. Giving you the short version. Okay, fine. Kind of roll my eyes, on the keyboard. Appreciate your time. Thanks a lot. I look forward to reviewing some of your products in the future. Sort of a little hint, but they were uninterested in sending me laptops. In fact, that was just out of this individual's capability anyway. So fast forward a year, it's the middle of 2019, and once again, Micro Center, God bless them, they have another one of these laptops, but it has the 9750H, the RTX 2060, very cool, and then 144 hertz panel, a nice panel, the panel that, the LG D05Z0, such a good display. So I bought this one, brought it home, reviewed it, did the teardown, and an awesome laptop, but it still ran very hot. And the wattage increments adjustability in the BIOS was not present. I think that was a very short-lived BIOS, which was a shame. But I'm disappointed, but yet I still like the laptop. There was just something about those Omens that I personally liked. And maybe it was because the display was directly connected to the GPU and it just offered really nice performance. It didn't have Optimus, so it wasn't good for portability, but as a gaming laptop, plugged into the wall, I just liked the machine. And I was able to tune this unit as well, undervolting the CPU and GPU to improve thermal performance, and I was happy enough with it. But I still wanted more. I wanted what I had talked about back in the middle of 2018 to you guys and of course to HP. Now it's early 2020, this year, in which I'm making this video, and I now have a contact through a company called Awin, who's affiliated with HP, that can get me HP products, anything from the US HP store, as long as it's in stock. They'll ship it to me, I'll review it, and then it gets sent back. And I could cover a printer if I wanted to. This individual could not care less, which means I can spec out an HP laptop however I see fit and then review it, which is really fun for me because I'm that middle of the road performance kind of guy. You know, I don't want to spend $2,500 or $3,000 on a laptop because I don't have that kind of money. I've never had that kind of money, and that's just how I have been operating my whole life. So that just makes sense to me, and it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. So I like that $1,000 US dollar to $1,200 US dollar price point personally. So then I can spec out these machines like that, get them sent here and cover them, and it's no big deal. Well, the first one I choose was the studio labeled 15-inch HP Omen, and it was the one that looks kind of like this here, where it has this lid aesthetic, so no more red accents here, just a little bit subtle without compromising the integrity of what the Omen line aesthetically stood for, at least over the last 2 generations. And this had the 2060 and 9750H. The studio just meant it had studio drivers on it. It was essentially the same hardware that was in the 2019 version that I had reviewed. But now I'm going to see if they're good on their word. HP said that they were going to do a few things, and a few things they did. Not only do we have the ability to max out the fans in the software, which improve thermal performance immensely, but the different profiles we had actually reduced the wattage of the hardware inside, which improved thermal performance, and still allowing us to max out the fans meant, HP, nice job. You figured out what I have been showcasing for years, how to tune your laptop, still offer maximum fans, and now you have just increased the desire for the consumer to get their hands on this, is because it's what they've been yearning for years. And dear other manufacturers that aren't doing this, you should have been doing this over the last couple of years. Ever since that 8750H was put inside of laptops, those 6 cores is tough to cool. And HP finally caught up ahead of many out there, and now this laptop is highly recommended by me. What's funny about this is that the community in the comment section was blown away. They're like, how can this be? This doesn't even make sense. Like, Bob, this is essentially kind of like the same Omen that you reviewed last year and the year before. How could this be so much better? And I explained this in my review as to why it was better, but I also had to do it in the comment section because what I was saying and what you were seeing just was not believable to many out there. They couldn't believe it was this much cooler and better tuned for essentially the same laptop. That's how it works. You give us maximum fan capability and you tune the wattage, you can have a nice thermal efficient laptop. This is awesome. And now, as in right now, we can get the Ryzen 7 4800H in their newer Omen aesthetic with a 1660 Ti and maybe even a 2060 depending on what part of the globe you live in. And what do you know? Nice thermal performance, a wonderful display. This laptop has made a lot of people happy. And that's kind of my point with all this, is that HP went from somebody that I wasn't really even considering reviewing their product, especially on my dime, to something that I'm interested in this. I think you almost have something. Let me give you some feedback. They come back to me and say, okay, we're going to work on this stuff and make it happen. Yeah, right, I say. They make it happen, and then they just keep coming forward with better stuff that is at the price range that I personally like. So I like what they've done. Now, HP, if you want to take it up a notch, and I hope you do consider this, 2 things. A lot of the trackpads on your solutions are plastic, and while they do have the Windows Precision driver on them, they may use an Elon trackpad. Give us the Microsoft Windows Precision trackpad with the glass trackpad, right? With, of course, the Precision drivers. And then a lot of your gaming laptops, like this one here, that has Gsync and 300 hertz, magnificent. But it's lacking that multiplexer switch, that MUX switch. Give us the switchability in the BIOS to be able to switch that back to Optimus or MS Hybrid graphics, so that way we can have the switchable solution that will run off the integrated graphics when unplugged to have an excellent battery life. And I think if you guys did that, still offered Gsync on these machines with a MUX switch, and then had a glass trackpad, it would be really difficult to recommend many other manufacturers over what you've got, and you guys are this close. You're already this much closer than a lot of folks out there, but you're this close to making it just a shoe-in to everyone's pockets. You guys are almost there. MUX switch, glass trackpad, and then let's talk from there. All right, folks, that's going to do it. I'm Bob of All Trades. Hopefully you liked my perspective, what HP has looked like through my eyes over the last couple of years, and I hope to see you in the next video.